If you rewind 250 years, the 13 American colonies were not a single unified body eagerly plotting a revolution. They constantly bickered over borders and trade, and they shared only one major thing in common: total loyalty to the British Crown. That status quo shattered when Britain defeated France in the Seven Years' War, claiming massive new North American territories. But looking at this steeply rising chart of Britain's national debt, you can see that victory came with an astronomical price tag, leaving the empire bankrupt. Desperate to balance the books, Parliament looked across the Atlantic. From their perspective, the empire had just fought an expensive war to protect the colonists from the French, meaning those colonists owed them a hefty refund. The colonists saw the situation differently. They pointed out that Britain waged that war to expand its own imperial footprint and take control of half a continent, not as a benevolent favor to the locals. This disagreement over who actually benefited from the victory created an immediate fiscal deadlock. Britain's demand for repayment met a colonial refusal to pay, turning an imperial triumph into a domestic crisis before the first tax was even collected. Parliament's first move was the Sugar Act, slapping new taxes on everyday imports like molasses, coffee, and certain fabrics. When that failed to raise enough cash, they escalated with the Stamp Act. This placed a strict bureaucratic tax on virtually every piece of official paper in colonial life: newspapers, business contracts, court documents, and even playing cards. This exhaustive bureaucracy triggered a sudden political awakening. The colonies held a joint congress and realized they were being forced to hand over their wealth without having a single elected representative in Parliament. What started as a dispute over ledgers turned deadly in 1770. During a chaotic street confrontation in Massachusetts, British soldiers fired into a crowd, killing 5 colonists in an event quickly branded the Boston Massacre. By attempting to assert absolute financial control over local communities, Parliament inadvertently gave 13 disjointed, suspicious colonies a shared trauma to rally behind. Hoping to cool the rising temperature, Britain rolled back nearly all the new taxes, but purely to assert dominance, they kept the tax on tea. A group of colonists retaliated by disguising themselves as Native Americans, boarding British ships, and dumping more than 300 chests of tea into the harbor, destroying a massive amount of British corporate property in the process. Furious, Parliament cracked down hard. They closed the port of Boston, stripped the region of its self-government, and aggressively increased their military occupation of the city. Rather than submitting, the remaining colonies banded together. They convened the First Continental Congress to coordinate a unified, continent-wide resistance against British overreach. 6 months later, the standoff reached its breaking point. In the town of Lexington, local militias and the British Army finally faced off. Amidst the tension, someone fired the first shot, the shot heard around the world. By deploying an occupying force to crush a localized political rebellion, the British Crown guaranteed the exact outcome they had tried to avoid: a full-scale continental war. Despite the bloodshed, the colonial leaders still hesitated. They gathered for a second Continental Congress, formed an army, and they put George Washington in command. Yet they actively sent letters pleading for peace with the king. The king rejected their appeals. With British reinforcements on the way and the gallows waiting for traitors, separating became their only survival option. The colonies voted to break away on July 2, 1776. On July 4th, they adopted the Declaration of Independence. Affixing their names to this parchment was high treason, putting their lives and fortunes on the line. In the text, Jefferson anchored the new nation to a specific philosophy, writing that all men are created equal and possess unalienable human rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet, as Jefferson codified those ideals of human liberty, waiting for him back at home alongside his wife and children were more than 100 enslaved people. The United States was born carrying a stark, uncomfortable contradiction, one the country would spend centuries trying to resolve.